Hey guys, it's James Rao here from Real Impact Coaching, and I've got another really awesome video for you. There's a bunch of stuff packed into this, so I'm going to try and go as quickly as I can, and I'm also going to timestamp when we get to different parts of the video. But this is for anybody that asked me about my checklists, as they've been removed from coaching because we're not using the pro coaching platform in Command anymore. So you would need to add your own checklists if you wanted to use them. I know in Ignite people are always asking me for my checklist, so I updated them and I made them readily available for you guys. I'm going to show you how you can get them whenever you need them, how they work, what's inside of them, what all the steps really mean, and then how to add it to your command as well. So a bunch of really cool stuff. I'm going to go fast, but we should be able to look back on this anytime you need to review. So we're going to start with the checklist. We're going to do a paperwork checklist, go over all the documents and how you upload them. Then we're going to go over listings, buyers, and then finally we'll do a net sheet as well. So I've got some really cool stuff for you here. This video will always be accessible to you to rewatch again and again if you need to, and these will always be available. Now, if you want my personal checklist, if you'd like to use them, you can always just go to this website right here I created for you guys. So this is my link tree, and the website is linktr.ee/James Rao. That's JamesRow. If you type that into your browser, it should take you to this page right here. It's got some really cool links. Now, I'm going to show you the checklist first. I'm going to start with my paperwork checklist here. So your paperwork checklist will go over all the documents that you're going to need to submit to the MCA in order to get paid. The MCA is the part of Keller Williams Emerald Coast that processes all of our paperwork. So let's click paperwork checklist and see what happens here. Anytime you click these, it's going to bring you to a page like this, and it's going to ask you, would you like to make a copy of paperwork checklist for agents? Oh my God, what a typo. Why did I put a parentheses there? Or, whatchamacallit? I'm adding possession to that. It's agents in coaching, not the agents in coaching. Terrible. All right, back to it. But paperwork checklist for agents in coaching, and you would hit make a copy. Now, when you do that, here's what's going to happen. It's going to open up the document, but this has also automatically added this to your Google Drive. So Google Drive is like a hard drive that you get with any Google account. And really quick, just so you understand how to access that in the future, if you ever go to Google, make sure you're logged in, and you needed to be logged in order to make that copy in your drive. So if you weren't, log into Google and then repeat the steps we just did. But up here, you see I'm logged in. And if I hit this little button right here, this is all my different Google options, the whole suite of software that Google provides. And this one is Drive. So if I click Drive, this will bring me up to my, this will bring me into my Google Drive, all the different files that I have in there. And this is the one we just made. We opened that just now. So now, and you could rename it if you wanted to, but that's how you always can go back and open that. Once you've clicked this once, you don't always need to go back to my link tree. This will just be in your Google Drive, so you can access it anytime you want. Pretty darn cool. All right, so what's in my paperwork checklist in here? Let's see. Yeah, we're good here. Oh, I had an extra one. Don't worry about that. Here we go. So what's in the paperwork checklist? Well, first of all, let me say this: broken up into 3 areas, and those 3 areas relate to the 3 areas in Command where you submit paperwork. So let's compare it really quick. I'm going to log into Command. And then remember, when we load our paperwork, we do so in an opportunity. So anytime you're working with a client, you should already have an opportunity made. And if you have an opportunity made, we'll go into our opportunities here. And I'm just going to click one. Let's see here, one of my listings here. There we go. This will work. Click here. And then go to Documents. Now, if you go to the Documents in any deal, if you've selected it as residential or whatever, commercial or condo, whatever it is, once you've done that, if it's on a listing side, you'll have 3 folders right here. You'll have listed, under contract, and closed. Now let's compare that to a buyer really fast. I'm going to go to a buyer's opportunity here. And then you'll see for a buyer, it's consultation, under contract, and closed. So both a listing or a buyer, you can have the same set of three, and they're just named slightly different things, but they mean the same thing. But you'll notice here for a buyer, there's nothing that goes into this first folder. That's your consultation folder or your listed folder for a listing. So let's go back to a listing here to compare one more time. This one's fine. Oops. Documents here, and you'll see for a listed folder, we do have things that need to go in there. Those are things that are required for a listing to be taken. So let's go over the paperwork checklist and notice these three folders one more time: listed, under contract, and closed. Those relate to these three sections right here: listing folder, under contract folder, and closed folder. So once again, you have all three. If you're working with a buyer, I always just go ahead and just X through this top part because those are only required for a listing. So if it's a buyer, you don't need to do that at all. But if it's a buyer, you just need to fill out these right here. This is basically what you'll need to submit in order to get paid. You need a fully executed contract. If you ever see this acronym FE right here, that means fully executed. That means everybody has signed it. The contract is officially active. It's been executed. Second would be a counteroffer. You would need that if there was a counteroffer filled out. Energy brochure. This is required any deal for the house in the state of Florida. So it's just a 2-page document that goes over like ways to be energy efficient. That'll be required for a buyer. Binder verification, or EMD. That's your EMD receipt you'll receive from the title company. So once your buyer turns in their EMD, the title company should email you and the listing agent a receipt of that being received. All contract riders, so if you have a right to inspect, right to cancel rider, a sale of the buyer's property rider, HOA rider, VA FHA rider, anything like that. If you have any riders, they need to be uploaded as well. And you would just see on page 12 of your contract, what are all the addenda that were checked that are attaching to the contract, and do I have a copy of all of those completely signed? Seller's property disclosure signed by the buyer. So that's something else you'll give. So if you're representing the buyer, the listing agent should provide that for you because the seller should have already filled it out. They will forward that over to you, and you will have your buyer sign acknowledging that they're aware of everything going on with the property. It's usually good to send a copy of that back to the listing agent once your buyer is signed, but you'll upload that fully executed property disclosure signed by both parties. Let's see here. MLS full report contingent or pending. So I'm going to walk you through this one time really quick. Notice on any deals, basically, you need one for, so if it's a listing, you need a copy of this when it's active, when it's under contract, and when it's closed. The same thing goes for a buyer, but you only need under contract and closed. You don't need it before you make an offer. You don't need to show that it was active. So to find these, just go to the MLS to print these off. It's not hard. Just go to the MLS and go to the listing. So if it was my listing, I would go over here to my listings on the right-hand side, click my house here, and then if I wanted to make a copy of this to upload to the MCA, I would go up here to print up here. And when I hit print, what I need to do is switch it from public to private. We always give public versions to our clients as they has information you might not want a client to have, like the contact info for the listing agent, for instance, or commission rates, things like that. So we switch it to private, so we do show all those things. And then I just want to make sure I'm only in current listing, good to go. And then I usually just do full RCN full report. I do full report with contact info if it's a document for a client, but that's not what this is. This is just to upload for reference. So I'm going to hit print. And then I always change it from my printer to save as PDF. This is a quick way to save anything as a file on your computer, and then hit save. It's going to ask me then where do I want to save it and what do I want to call it. So for today, let's just leave it in my downloads here since it already took it to downloads. And let's just say, and so I'm just going to name this after the property itself. I'm just going to call this 1290 Wells Avenue MLS Active Private. And that way, if I look back at this, I know what property it is. It's an MLS listing. It's the active version, and it's set to private. So I know exactly what kind of document I'm looking at. And I'll hit save. We'll save that to our document so that we can refer to it later on. Bam. All right, so that's how we get those to upload to the MCA. And like I said, you'll need those for most stages of a listing. 3 stages for a listing, 2 stages for a buyer. All right, back to paperwork checklist. After our MLS, we have a lead-based paint disclosure. That just is a disclosure about the information regarding lead-based paint on a property, what the seller knows. Do they know if there's lead-based paint? Do they have any documents relating to it? If the property is older than 1978, you have to do this no matter what. So if it's 77 or before, do a lead-based paint disclosure. Commission agreement for a FSBO. So if it's a for sale by owner, you need to have them sign a commission agreement to agree to pay you, because if they don't and you go under contract, technically they don't have to pay you anything. You don't want to get into all of that. Big mess. So just go ahead and get that signed before they sign the official contract. All right, a referral agreement and W-9. So if you receive a referral, you're going to need to get the referral agreement filled out between you and the agent that referred the client to you, and you need the W-9 from their broker. So they'll be able to get that for you. Now, if you are sending the referral out, on the other hand, you'll still need the referral agreement. They'll need your W-9, so you'll send yours out. Now, you can get that in the documents section of MyKW. All right, next is an insulation rider that's required on any new construction. So in my experience, most new construction, the builder has their own contract. And if they have their own contract, this is probably built in there somewhere. It'll be a little table that goes over the different types of insulation that are in the house, what types of insulation, where they're located, how much of it there is. If the builder does not have that in their contract, or if you use a FAR/BAR contract or something like that, you would have to use the addendum that's specifically made for this. You can find that in DocuSign. All right. Fully executed cancel and release upon termination. So if the deal falls through and everything gets canceled, you'll need a cancel and release, or as it's commonly referred to as CNR, signed by both the buyer and the seller, basically saying that we're canceling the deal, here's who gets to keep the earnest money. Wire fraud prevention notice. This is going to be required for buyers and sellers. And a home inspection form, that's the disclosure that goes over the different types, or like all the different options for home inspections. It's basically a cover your butt document so that you can say, yes, we definitely encourage you to get all the inspections that you could. And here's you acknowledging that we encourage you to do that. All right, so that is all the documents you'll need for either a buyer or a seller. Now, some of these will be required kind of double if you have a listing. Like I said earlier, that top section is only for listings, but sometimes they'll double up. You will always need to do this middle section. So let's go over that. If it is a listing, once you're taking the listing, you're going to need to get these documents as well. The first one, obviously, your listing agreement. You need to get that up within 24 hours. Your MLS active full detail report. So just like we did earlier with the pending one, we do the same thing with an active. So as soon as we activated our listing in the MLS, the first thing we'd want to do is go ahead and just download a PDF of that for our files. Get the seller's property disclosure filled out by the buyer, the seller. So this is one of the ones that double up. Up here, this is referring to the one that the seller fills out when you're taking the listing. Now, you would also need another version of it down here, and that's going to be for after you're under contract and the buyer signs the one that the seller had already signed. So this will have all party signatures on it. Let's see here. Lead-based paint disclosure, the same thing. This will be one signed by just the seller. Down there, it'll be the one signed by both the seller and your buyer if you go under contract. HOA disclosure, same thing. Wire fraud prevention notice. Once again, you'll need that up here if it's a listing, down there if it's a buyer. And then finally, a brokerage relationship disclosure if it's vacant land, because it's not built into the listing agreement. And then finally, no matter what kind of deal, buyer or seller, you always have to do the close folder as well after you've closed. It's just 2 documents. Once again, an MLS now marked as sold. So go into the MLS, save it as a PDF as sold now. And you also need a signed copy of the HUD or ALTA. That's the American Land Title Act. It's a disclosure of the closing costs. So it'll say all the debts and credits to both the buyer and the seller at the end of the transaction. You'll need the signed version. That'll be signed at closing, and title will give you a copy of that. All right, so that's all your documents. And if you are ready to upload them, go into Command, go to your opportunity. And in your opportunity, go back here again. Let's say I'm going into my opportunities here, and I'm going to upload the documents for a listing I have. Click that. Go to Documents. And then here's where I can upload all my docs. Let's see. There's 2 ways you can do it. you can do it through DocuSign or you can do it directly off of your computer. If they're in your DocuSign and you've already linked the transaction, you can upload them directly, but you'll have to know what folder the document's in and exactly what it's named. And you'll have to have it linked directly to this opportunity. You'll know you've done that if this button says what it says right here for me, which is go to transaction. If it says start a transaction and you've already been doing work in a DocuSign room, that means you made a room that's not connected to this. So if you hit that start a transaction button, it'll open a room that directly connects and you can pull from there. But if it's a separate room that's not connected, it doesn't have that little link right there like the picture says, then you're going to have to do it from your computer. All right, so if you're going to do it from DocuSign, just make sure this section says DocuSign and you've selected what folder you're going to have it pull from. And then down here, you'll select what document. Now, I don't have any documents in that folder, so there's none to list, but usually we list all the documents that are available in that folder, and you'd pick which one you want. Now, I usually think it's a little bit easier to go into DocuSign, open up the document I like, and download it, save it to a folder on my computer because I want to keep it for my records anyway, and then I'll upload it that way from my computer. So to do that, I go up here where it says DocuSign, and I click that and switch it to my computer. And then I can bring a folder in here, like I could bring a folder up, and I could grab a document. Let me just go to my downloads here. Like I could grab a document here, and I could drag and drop, and I could just drop it into one of these boxes. Or if I don't have a file explorer already opened, I can always just click the browse button and it'll open a file explorer and I can select what document I want. You can even jump from folder to folder here and then hit the open button and it'll upload it up there for you. All right, so that's how you upload all of your documents into Command. Once you've got all of them and they're good to go, you will just go up here and hit Submit to MC. That button will turn blue once you've uploaded your documents. I've uploaded nothing, so it's not letting me submit anything. But once I've uploaded stuff, that button will turn blue and it'll send it in. And don't forget to also fill out your offers and commissions and submit that as well. The MCA will need you to submit your documents and your offer and commission information in order for them to process and for you to get your DA so you can get paid. All right. So we've talked about how to upload documents, all the paperwork you're going to need. Let's get to the other checklists that we have. So we have a buyer's checklist, a listing checklist, and then we also are going to have a net sheet. So we'll go through these one at a time. First of all, the buyer checklist. Just remember to click that, hit make a copy just like we did before. Here's what this document will look like. Now, back in the day before I uploaded these into my command, I would just have like a folder with maybe like 10 of these, and anytime I met a buyer, I just went ahead and started filling it out. That folder always had like brokerage agreements and these checklists so that I knew exactly what I needed to do with any buyer. All right, so I would put their name at the top. That way I could kind of flip through all the buyers that I'm working with and see what I need to do for them. And then I know I need to make a buyer's presentation, and I need to add them to my database before I have an appointment. Once I have an appointment, I need to add them to my app or the MLS, whichever way we're going to search for properties. We need to get them pre-approved with the lender. We need to have them sign the buyer's brokerage agreement. And we need to start to show them houses. Once we show them houses and we find a property they like, we would write up an offer on the contract and we would do a net sheet so they know their closing costs. And we would do that process until we get accepted. Once we get accepted, I would plug the address to the property we got accepted for right here. And then here's basically all the steps I'm going to need to do. There's like 17 of them to get to closing. First, make sure they turn in their earnest money deposit. Then coordinate with the title company. So send the title company an email with your contact info, your client's contact info, and the contract and the paperwork, like the addenda that are attached to it. That way they can start to process the title work. Same thing with the lender. Send an email to the lender. They will already have the client's contact info because they've been communicating with them, but they still need an email saying, hey, we went under contract, and you need to provide that contract to them. So attach it to the email. All right, next you need to order your inspections. Order a home inspection, order a WDO inspection, and then order a septic inspection if it's septic. Now, obviously, all of this is at the discretion of the client, but they're heavily, heavily, heavily encouraged, and very rarely do I ever have a client opt out of any type of inspection like that. Also order a survey if there's not a usable one. Now, always check with the seller. The seller might have a usable survey. If they give you a survey, make sure you run it by title that it is usable and make sure it is. If it's not, you need to order a survey. You will need one. All right, once you get all those reports back, review them with your client and put together your repair request. Send the repair request over to the listing agent. Confirm that the repairs have been completed. Now, and keep in mind, these are generally kind of in order, but I've kind of grouped them. Some of this stuff will overlap. Just make sure you've run through and you've done anything you can on a given day for a client. Next, verify the appraisal. So check with the lender, make sure the appraisals come in. If it has, and it came in low, contest it if you need to. Once the final value is confirmed, confirm that you got a clear to close from the lender. If not, you need to see what does the lender need to get to clear to close. Submit your documents into Command. That's what we just showed you how to do. Make sure that you do it within 10 days of closing. I would do business days, but do 10 days of closing. That way the MCA has time to process it so they have your DA and that's ready to go for you whenever you go to the closing table. We want to get you paid. Let's see. Confirm your DA, forward it to title. Really quick, where does that go? So just like when you upload documents into your Command for an opportunity, the MCA is going to do the same thing with your DA. They're going to upload it into here. So it's going to go into the closed folder on here on the left-hand side of your deal. It'll go right there. If they haven't uploaded it yet, it'll look like this. Hold on, let me move my camera here. See that? That's crazy. All right, so usually it'll show up right here. So right now it's showing that you could upload something. That means that the MCA hasn't added anything. So we're clear if you want to see what that looks like. Or when it actually does have a DA. Click it. I'm just going to go to an opportunity. Come on. I'm teaching here. Don't get stuck on me. All right. Let me go to an opportunity that's closed, so that'll have a DA. Yeah, that'll have a DA. Documents closed, and then that's what it'll look like if there is a DA. It'll be a little blue, and you can click it, open up a PDF. You can look at the DA, you can print it off, and that's what you would do. You would print it off, download it to your computer, and send it to the title company. Oh, hold on, you guys might not have been able to see that. One more time, really quick. Move my camera one last time. And I have to make a sound effect. Be right up here, so you can print or download right there. Right up here. All right, guys. I'm gonna move my camera back to its normal resting place. And we'll get back to work. Okay, so we talked about DAs. Almost closing. Confirm closing date with the title company and with your clients. Coordinate the final walkthrough. It's usually done the day of or day before. Make sure you actually have them fill out and sign the final walkthrough disclosure, the form that goes along with it. Just verifying that they're okay with the property and its condition, and then go to closing. After closing, you have a few things you still need to do. You need to submit your documents to Command, the ones in the closed folder, the signed Alta and the MLS sold. You need to request a testimonial or review from your client, and you need to get them a housewarming gift would be really good. Remember, if you put your logo and your info on it, then it's considered marketing, and you can write it off 100%. Food for thought for you. Let's see, client paperwork. So get together the paperwork to give to them. I usually put it on a jump drive. Schedule a check-in. So I usually just schedule a time maybe a week or two after closing to stop by, see how things are going with the house, and if they're settling in okay. Give them their paperwork, maybe take a picture with them out in front of the house to use with a social media post with their testimonial. And remember, you're just trying to make a connection. These need to be lifelong clients for you. Let's see, social media posts. So post on social media the closing, their testimonial, picture with the family, that kind of stuff. Update your database. So update that they're no longer a buyer for you. Add their new home address, add their home buy anniversary date. And then finally, I usually put them on a neighborhood nurture smart plan so that once a month they're getting kind of updates on what's happening with their property value, because they can see in their neighborhood, are prices going up? Are they going down? Are things sitting? Are they selling fast? Are they doing price adjustments? What's going on? All right, so that's my buyer's checklist. Really quick, fast, and in a hurry. Let's get into listings. So if I go over here, listing checklist up at the top, it'll look like this. All right, my listing checklist, a little bit bigger, a lot more stuff going on. It looks like more stuff, but I'll honestly say I feel like you do more front end work on a listing, but then after the front end work, you really don't have a lot to do. It's like almost an autopilot once you're under contract. So at the listing appointment, what do I need to get done? Obviously, other than get hired, which is a whole different class when we talk about how to get hired at a listing appointment. But given the assumption that we did get hired, what do I need to do while I'm at the listing appointment? All right, so I need to get a listing agreement signed. I need to get a seller's property disclosure to them to fill out. I need to get a lead-based paint disclosure to them to fill out if the property is older than 78. I need to get a seller's questionnaire. So that's not required. I do that for my clients. So basically, what the seller's questionnaire is a breakdown of questions that I've been asked by buyers or buyers agents, and it kind of grows over time with new questions that get added to it. But I usually just have my listing. With any listing, I usually have my sellers fill it out, so I kind of already know that info on the property before anybody calls. I now fill out notes and measurements. So I take that in an input form I get off the MLS. This is really good to know. Before you go to the listing appointment, go to the MLS. Because remember, the MLS is going to ask you a boatload of questions whenever you are going to add your listing to the MLS. If you're new to that and you don't know what questions it's going to ask, here's how you can get a cheat sheet for that. So go to the MLS, hit menu, scroll down to input forms, and then make sure it's on residential. If it's a house, obviously change it if you're looking at something else. And I usually do check this, print possible values, and hit print. It'll add a document that's every single question the MLS is going to ask when you load it in. So if you want a paper version of what the MLS is going to ask you, so that when you go home and you haven't missed anything, I'm telling you, it's super duper helpful. And there's a super awesome section at the end where you can write down all the measurements for the rooms as well. So you can go through and measure those off. I do definitely measure all my rooms with a tape measure. So you handle that how you want to handle it, but I measure my rooms. All right, next I ask the client if they have a survey, recent mortgage statement, so I know basically what their payoff's going to be and how to contact the mortgage people for a payoff. Insurance, so do they have a recent insurance statement so we kind of know what their homeowner's insurance is looking like, and any HOA documents. Also ask if they have a copy of the key. If they don't have a copy of a key, get a key that they do have, go to Walmart and make a copy so you have a key for your lockbox. After the appointment, what do I need to get done? I need to order pictures, unless you're taking pictures yourself, which I highly discourage. Order your pictures, order your sign to be installed. I have somebody go out and put my signs out. If you don't do that, if you're doing it yourself, go put your sign out right before the listing goes live the day before. Go by, put your sign out. Remember, it can't be out. I think it's 24 hours. It might be 48, but I don't think it can be out more than 24 hours before the listing goes live. So time that one. I usually just tell my people when the listing's going live, and they go out and put the sign out for me. All right, add it to the MLS. So earlier we filled out the input form at the listing appointment. Now I'm going to come home and I'm going to go ahead and load all that into the MLS. You can do that before you go live. So when you're done filling everything out, instead of hitting add listing, go away. Instead of hitting add listing, hit save incomplete, and then go to my incomplete later and open it up, and you can finish it. So usually what I do is I fill everything out, all the questions, all the measurements, all the hard stuff to type up like directions and agent-to-agent remarks and the remarks on the property. That takes a while to do. That's a few hours worth of work. So do that then, and then once you get your pictures in, there you go live, upload your pictures, hit active, and make the listing go live. That way you can go live in a couple minutes. It doesn't take you a couple hours of filling everything in. Don't procrastinate. Go ahead and get that done, ahead of time. All right. Let's see here. We've added to the MLS. And remember, once you hit it active, don't forget to download a PDF of the listing so that you have an active version. Create a binder. So I usually have like a little 3-ring binder that's got like handy stuff for buyers, like copies of the listing, the survey, the seller's property disclosure, updates on the property done by the seller. I mean, things like that. Anything that I think would be helpful, insurance quotes, stuff like that. I load that in the binder. leave it at the property for people to look at when they come through. Make sure it has like a pretty cover on it so people know it's based on the property. Excuse me. All right. I also create a flyer for open houses. I do that in Command. I do a postcard campaign. So I do a postcard mail out to the entire neighborhood like I just listed. I put my super box out at the house. I create a landing page. That's a standalone website in Command that you can create. It is somewhere to direct people to when they click your marketing. Speaking of marketing, do a post on your social media and start to do Facebook marketing on the property. Add the seller to the neighborhood nurture just like you would with a buyer. That way they have updates on what's going on in the neighborhood, what's selling, what's going under contract, what's getting price adjustments, and what's closing, because if it closes, it's a comp now. Schedule your open houses in the MLS. Set an expiration date reminder task. So once I know the expiration date of my listing, I put a reminder in my command for a few days before to remind me so that my listing doesn't expire and then somebody calls them and I lose my listing. We don't want that to happen. And then finally, if you want to, you can film, edit, and upload a YouTube walkthrough. You can see examples of that on my YouTube channel, but just a little extra thing you can do. Not most agents do not do that. They just get like a Zillow virtual walkthrough or something like that. But, it's good to be extra. All right, after all that, you should go live and you should wait for offers. The property will show, you'll host your open house, things like that. But once you get your offer, what do I need to do? Receive your offer or offers. If there's multiple ones, you need to put together a comparison so you can explain that to your clients, the differences between the offers. Schedule an offer review and meet with the client. Review the offers and decide if you're going to accept one or if you're going to counter. And then once you decide to accept or counter, or reject, obviously, execute the contract if you're going to accept one. So have everybody sign, get under contract. Once you're under contract, coordinate with the title company. Just like with the buyer, send them an email with the contract and the addenda and contact info for you and your client, and just touch base. Just let them know to get the ball rolling. Pin the listing in the MLS. Don't forget to download a PDF. Set a close date reminder task. So just like with your expiration date, once you know a close date, set a reminder for a few days before, because something might happen and you might delay that closing by a week, and you might do all that with the contract, but you forget to do it in the MLS. If you forget to update that closing date and time elapses and you miss the little warning emails they send you, you can get a fine for that. I have been fined for that foolishly. So don't follow in my foolish footsteps. Please set a reminder task so you don't forget to extend your close date if you need to. Confirm that the title company has received the earnest money. At this point, you'll also basically be moving into the inspection period. So you'll coordinate inspections with the buyer's agent. The buyer's agent will tell you when the inspections are going to be. Call them if they don't, reach out. Coordinate the inspections with the seller once you know when they're going to be. Once all the inspections are done, unless it's an as-is contract, you'll receive a repair request from the seller or the buyer. Schedule the repairs to get done. It's seller's choice, so have them hire licensed professionals, get the inspections done, and then confirm repair completion with the buyer's agent. So let them know all the work got done, see how they want to do a re-inspect. Do they want to send their inspector out for a re-inspect at the buyer's expense? Does the buyer want to come take a look at everything, or do they just want you to send them pictures and invoices, which is very common? Schedule the re-inspect if they want one, and coordinate the re-inspect with the seller. That's all the inspection stuff you got to do. Appraisal, confirm that the appraisal is ordered. So I usually just message the buyer's agent and ask them if they know if the appraisal's been ordered yet. If you don't get any responses, poke a few times, but if they won't get to you, don't feel like you can't reach out to the lender and say, hey, has that appraisal been ordered yet? Schedule appraiser with the seller. So the appraiser will usually call the listing agent and schedule the appraisal, so just let the seller know when the appraiser is going to go by. Confirm the appraised value once the appraisal comes in. If it comes in low, contest the appraisal, and then confirm final value. After that, clear to close. Make sure the loan is done for the buyer. So confirm clear to close with the lender. I usually ask the buyer, hey, have we got a clear to close yet? If not, what are we waiting on? Schedule a closing date with title, so hopefully you'll already be on the calendar. They usually schedule that pretty early on. You'll be communicating with title throughout the deal. They should get you on the calendar, but make sure you're on there so your seller has a time to go in. Sellers can usually go in day before, so that's usually very, very common for the seller to sign ahead of time. A few days before closing, you'll receive the ALTA to review to make sure that all the closing costs and everything look okay. Review it and forward that to your client. Let them review it as well so everyone's taking a look at it. I usually compare it to my net sheet that I put together for the client. I schedule the final walkthrough. So I'll reach out to the buyer's agent. When are you guys going to do your final walkthrough and coordinate that with your seller? And don't forget to schedule for your sign to be removed or go remove your sign yourself. After the closing, make sure you go get that lockbox off the house. Sometimes buyer's agents will grab it for you and leave it at the title company, but I usually just go grab mine. Market is sold in the MLS. Don't forget to do that. Once again, you could get fined. Update close documents into Command. Deposit your checks. Do a mail out. So I usually do like a just sold mail out for the neighborhood. Get a closing gift for your seller. And update the database. So update their information, their new address, any smart plans you want to put them on. How are you going to follow up with them in the future? All right, so those are my checklists. That's everything. The last thing I'm going to go over with you is the net sheet really fast. So this is basically closing costs, like closing cost estimate for your client. And I've also added cheat sheets for you. So finally, once again, don't forget, go to my link tree, linktr.ee/James Rao. There we are. And down, I think it's near the bottom. Yeah, right here at the bottom, net sheet template. Click that. Once again, when you click it, hit make a copy. It'll bring you to this. There's a buyer side and a seller. There is a combination, but I've never used it to hand me down. So this was given to me, and then I've edited it over time and added the cheats for you guys too. So this is an organic document that's just being passed down from realtor to realtor. I love it. So this is my checklist for sellers and for buyers. Now we'll start with buyers and then we'll go to sellers. So for buyers, you'll fill this out, and all of this, a lot of what's in this net sheet will like auto add and edit and things like that. Like for instance, let me show you. Like let's say you're doing a sales price of $500,000. Now it's added, it's gone ahead and estimated the origination fee. It has, which is way off, something's going on there. It has also done the origination fee, which is correct. That should be about $16,000. You scroll down here, later on it'll add all the closing costs as well. All right, so go through here. Here's all of your closing costs. If there is a note on the side, that usually means it's associated with that side of the deal. So read through the notes on the side to figure it out. They're usually pretty straightforward. If there are any here that are confusing for you, reach out to me, let me know, and I am going to do a full video on the net sheet by itself, really in detail. But just so you guys have this and know where it's at, here's all the cheats, what I know, how I calculated, basically. It's an explanation for you. And then, trust me, I had to figure these out on my own, so you're very, very welcome. And then if you click seller down here at the bottom, it'll bring up the seller net sheet. A lot of these at the top are only associated with buyers, that's why they're blank. But then down here you'll see the closing costs associated with the seller. And once again, you'll see that it auto adds all this. You might need to edit all this yourself, like the commission rates. But just paraphrase it, it's really, really good to have. I give this to all my clients when we go under contract, and I have them sign acknowledging that they're aware of an estimate of what their closing costs are going to be. But also this is just an estimate, that it's not a guarantee. All right, so that is about it. That's going to be my list for you guys. I hope that was really, really helpful. I wanted to show you one more thing before I go, though. If you want to add these lists into your command to use instead of a paper checklist, you can do that too. So really quick, in command, let me show you some really cool tools here. If you go to your opportunities and you want to use these really cool modern checklists in command that'll give updates to your clients and stuff, it's really cool. You edit them within the different phases and stages. So if I'm looking at listings and buyers, these are the phases, and there's different stages within each phase. So you can add checklists for each stage within each phase. Like for instance, I usually don't have any type of checklist for cultivating clients. That's just going to be me following up with them until they're ready for an appointment. But let's say a listing is ready for an appointment, right? And I get the appointment, I'll have checklists for what to do to for the appointment. So if I have an appointment coming up, this is a scheduled appointment, I could click this checklist, and there's a checklist of all the things I want to do pre-listing, or pre-listing appointment. Now, if we'll refer back to our list that we had earlier, where's my listing checklist? Buyer checklist, buyer checklist. There it is, listing checklist. Like, it starts with the listing appointment. What do I want to get done? A lot of that will be in my pre-listing appointment. My pre-listing appointment will be print a listing agreement, print a seller's disclosure, print a lead-based paint disclosure, print an input form, the things I'm going to need going in. And I can use this checklist to kind of make a bank for that. And then all of this stuff I start to add in. So after the appointment, what do I need to get done? If I go back to command, that would be if the appointment is agreed upon and we get a listing agreement, that's my pre-listing section here. That's what I call it. And here's my checklist. Now, how do I make these checklists? You have to be within the stage, like I can't edit checklists for buyers if I'm in the listing section. And likewise, I also can't edit anything in the appointment stage if I'm in the active stage. So you have to be in, the phase. So you have to be in the phase that you want to edit. So right now I could edit my active checklists. So I would go to, and here's how I handled this. I started with appointments. I went to the appointments one first. I just go to left to right. At the appointments section, what checklist do I want to have? What am I going to do with every client? So I go up here to edit stages to add these checklists. And you'll see here's the different stages within this phase. You can move these around if you want to. And then you can add checklists to them. Like right here is my checklist for if an appointment is scheduled. So if I get a scheduled appointment, what do I need to get ready? Oh, I moved it. Didn't mean to do that. Click it. It'll open up my checklist. I can move the items in the checklist if I want to shuffle their order. I can add items down here. Hit add item, type what you want, and hit save. And if you want the client to get an email update, you would just check this little box right here, and it'll be an item that gets an email update to your client. And you do that for every stage within every phase. It's a little bit tedious. It'll take you about an hour or so, but I'm telling you guys, it's worth it. So that's how you add them. Now, how do they work once you've added them all in? If I go to an opportunity here, I'm going to try and find one. Oh, I know what I can do. Let's go to a new one here, and we'll kind of move it down the row. Yeah, here we go. So check this out. So if I open up a checklist, let's say I'm going to move this fake opportunity here, and let's say this fake Bruce Banner opportunity here, he agrees to sign with me. So we're going to list. So I would move him to active, and then when I go to active, you'll see he's popped up right here. He's populated in my pre-listing section. It says I've done 0 of 13 items. So if I click that, it has already loaded in that checklist for this client. So it's already loaded it in. If it ever does not load in, let me see if I can find one. Give me an example here. Yeah, here we go. If it ever does not add your checklist for you that you know you created, you just need to hit this little create from template button. And when you click that create from template button, it'll add those in for you. Or you can always just move the card to that stage. So move it to close, move it to under contract, that kind of stuff. Now, the other thing is if you want client updates. So how do I check things off my checklist and how do I add client updates? So if I click the checklist here, I can check what items I've done. And if it has this little client update checkbox, that means that they will get an email. So the next morning they'll get an email that says, James Rao is hard at work. He's ordered pictures for you. If I check this off. Now, if I change my mind and I don't want them to get a client update, I can just uncheck this right here and they won't. Likewise, let's go back into here. If I do want something to get a client update, I can just check that. And you see it's added it right here. It added that little envelope. And you can also set due dates as well if you need to set a due date for one of these items for a specific client. And then just check it off whenever you're done. So if I ordered pictures, Check that off. Now I've ordered pictures. Good to go. He'll get an email update. And the last thing is to make sure they get the email updates. These little buttons have to be green here. So you see these say client updates, these say the client updates are off, right? So if I want to turn them on, I go into the opportunity, I go up here to the top and I hit client updates, check who I want to get updates, and hit send daily progress emails, save changes. Boom. And now they've got client updates. And the checklist is always right here. Now this stage doesn't have anything because I'm showing the house right now, but that's how you do the checklist. So really, really cool. I use those checklists. If you just want to use the paper ones, those always work as well. And this will always be available to you guys. Once again, always have this link tree up for you. So it is linktr.ee/James Rao. And that is all of my checklists. That is, let's see, what else do I have? My net sheet for you here. And just some other good stuff like my YouTube channel for videos like this to always check back. The Real Impact coaching website, my consumer website that you can play around with, see how I set mine up. If you guys have any more questions though, please reach out. I hope this video was super duper informative. I really wanted to put this together for you guys. I thought it would be a big help. So let me know how it helps you. And if you want me to add any more types of checklists that might be helpful for you, I'd be more than happy to. Until next time, guys, I am James Rao, and you can reach me at 850-816-8898. And I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.